Hey guys, it's Jacob Paulson, the one that broke his leg and rode on the bench during his second grade basketball career. I'm here to talk about the question, is Jesus God? And how come he never directly says, hey guys, I'm God in the Bible? So what we'll be doing is looking at the verse in 1 Peter chapter 3, which talks about defending your faith. And then we'll look at some examples of people who might be asking this question. And then we're going to look at what did Jesus actually say, and how he did say that he was God. He just didn't say it in, I guess, the way that we were expecting. So excited to catch you guys up with hearing about God and his word. And so the first thing I'd like to do is just open us up in prayer. So if you can, just please bow your head with me. God, I thank you for this community. I thank you for these students that are at home with their family. I pray that you would be growing them to love you and to love their family members, and that we would be seeking after you and making you proud. I pray that you would help me find the right words to say, and that I could be teaching these students well. And I just pray that they would be able to connect with each other and with their leaders, and that even though we're apart from each other, we would be able to learn more about you and how we can serve others. I pray these things in your name. Amen. So we're going to look at 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 13 through 17. It says, "Now who is there to harm you if you are zealous for what is good? But even if you should suffer for righteousness' sake, you will be blessed. Have no fear of them, nor be troubled. But in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense for anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Yet do it with gentleness and respect, having a good conscience, so that when you are slandered, those who revile your good behavior in Christ may be put to shame. For it is better to suffer for doing good, if that should be God's will, than for doing evil. For Christ also suffered." And it continues, but I was going to leave it off there. What strikes me off there is that the context of defending your faith isn't to win the argument. He is telling people, hey, if you're doing the right thing, if you're being good, then people aren't going to be persecuting you. This is something that we don't necessarily have to fear as much in Laredo as people do around the world, but just know that even today, there are people around the world that are believers, that trust in Jesus for their salvation, and they are being persecuted for that. They're literally being killed over this belief because they're not conforming to believing in other things. And so I guess the thing that strikes me is that even though we're not under this persecution, oftentimes we are not answering with gentleness and respect. And so really we're the ones that have the least to lose. And so we should be the ones that are most able to be gentle and respectful. And so just to give you a little bit more into my life, I'm actually studying right now to become a counselor. And one of the first things that we're learning is just about the idea of being gentle and respectful. And the idea is that each person has their own culture. So even if you're from Laredo, you might not have the same experience as another Laredoan. And so we each have our own idea of what's right and wrong. We each have our own idea of how close we should be to one another, how fast we should be talking, all those types of things that make counseling important. And while somebody asking you if Jesus is God may not be a counseling thing, Jesus is called the Wonderful Counselor. And we should be like Christ if we're going to be Christians. So like a little fun fact about Christian is Christian means little Christ. And so we're supposed to be like Christ in everything. And so Jesus was gentle and respectful to people. You know, there were times where he was busting out like a cord of whips and like, you know, overturning tables and stuff like that. Not going to really get into that, but you can check that out in John chapter 2. He's overturning the temple. It's really cool. And so understanding that, you know, humans are dynamic and Jesus is also a human and he was very dynamic. But anyway, point is we are looking at being gentle. And so one of the things that goes on with this is when people are asking you if Jesus is God, they might have all sorts of different motives, and you have to be able to analyze each person to see what is their motive. This could be somebody who is like an atheist and is like proud to be an atheist and is just like in your face and is just trying to be like, trying to show you that you're an idiot because you're a Christian. With people like this, you might not even talk back to them. It could just be something that you're saying like, hey, do you actually want to have a discussion about this? or are you just trying to make fun of me? Maybe don't phrase it like that, because that could just open you to being bullied more. But the idea is that Jesus obviously is God. That's the general understanding, is that people understand that Jesus is God, or they understand that Jesus claimed to be God. And so if they're telling you, no, Jesus never really claimed to be God, chances are that they're not being open and honest about this question. But they might be. Maybe they're from a completely different country where they just don't have this understanding at all. And so if they're coming from a different country and they're saying, I heard a little bit about Jesus, and some people say that he's God, and other people say that he isn't, what does Jesus say about it? And so we're going to be looking at a verse that goes right into that. But let me pull it up because I have a bad memory. Okay, so this might be like a little bit patchy just because I'm pausing and stopping this, and that's just what I'm doing right now, because I'm not on stage and I don't have to have this all ready in one go, and so I'm kind of just looking over my notes to make sure everything's good. And Joey might even edit this part right out. Okay, so as far as ancient literature goes, the Bible is the most copied ancient book. And what that means is, so like Homer and the Iliad, when he's talking about, I forgot the guy's name, right? But he's like traveling around the Greek world, and he's like slaying the Cyclops and stuff like that. There's different copies of that book that say different things, and the details that are changed can be dramatic. Whereas in the Bible, the details that are changed are like they use the word the, or they use the word these. The number might be slightly different on counting the census of a population or something like that, where they added an extra zero or forgot to put a zero in or something like that. And then there's thousands and thousands of copies of the Bible. And people like about 100 years ago were like, oh, the Bible can't be trusted. There were the monks and the Roman Catholic Church, and they were just altering the Bible to make sure that the prophecies about Jesus would match with the life of Jesus, and they're kind of saying that they're going back and rewriting everything to make Jesus look better than he was. But then an amazing thing happened was there were these scrolls that were in Israel that nobody had discovered for over, like 1,800 years or something crazy like that. This shepherd boy was tossing rocks at a cliff because that's what kids do. And he heard something break, and he went up there and he found these scrolls, and then they searched the area and they found all these scrolls that were showing that the Old Testament today that we have is actually the same that it was during Jesus' time. And so we can know that the Roman Catholic Church wasn't changing the Bible to match Jesus. And not that we're a Roman Catholic Church at Grace, it's just that the Roman Catholic Church is big and powerful and strong, and that's where the conspiracy people drew their conspiracies. Anyway, and so people that that talk to you might not believe the Bible. They might think that it's unreliable. And so that's something where you could be bringing that up to them, is that we do have copies that are a couple thousand years old that are the same as the copies that we have that are only 500 years old. And so the story hasn't been changing. And if we're looking at more recent stuff, the book of John, which was estimated to be written in the year 90 AD, the first piece of a copy that we have is written in the year 125 AD. So about 35 years later, we have the first copy. And so we know that the New Testament wasn't altered either. And the reason why that's important is because if we're looking at what did Jesus say, a lot of people are like, oh, we don't know what Jesus said because he never actually wrote the book himself. And since he didn't write the book himself, people could have just been making up all sorts of things. And that's where we go back to Joey's sermon, which was, I think, 2 weeks ago, where he talked about, like the apostles. They were the ones that wrote about Jesus, and they all died with their belief in Jesus. They, not that they just died like old men, like they were killed for it. It was like, hey, denounce this and we'll spare you. And they're like, no, this is true, I'll die anyway. And so if they were lying about it, they probably wouldn't die for it. And so anyway, if you can get them to understand that the Bible is, accurate, then we can start looking at what did Jesus actually say. So if we're looking at what Jesus actually said, people might be saying, Jesus never said, I am God. And so an interesting about that, and you can check out the Bible Project, they have a video about this. I'll send it to Joey. He can put it in the link below. So check out the description, like, comment, and subscribe. Always wanted to say that, you know? Anyway, so Jesus never says, I am God. So the thing about God is that when we use God in English, the Bible was written in like Greek or in Hebrew. So God isn't it's what we translate, but it's not necessarily the best word. So oftentimes God, the way that we use it, actually just means like spiritual being. And that's why sometimes the Bible says gods, and it's not talking about multiple people that are, Yahweh, which is what we're getting at here. So we're gonna look at Exodus chapter 3. So in Exodus chapter 3, Moses sees this burning bush and he's like, what's with this bush? It's burning, but it's not going out. So he gets a closer look, and God is in the bush and he's telling him, don't come near. This is holy ground. I'm the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Then God's telling him, hey, I'm seeing what's going on in Egypt. So in case you're like completely unaware, God made the world, people sinned, yada yada. The Israelites are with Abraham. God talks to Abraham. Hopefully you're paying attention with the Genesis stuff. All that's going on, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then now they're living in Egypt for 400 years as slaves. And the Israelites are like, slavery sucks. God help us. And so God is saying, I know their sufferings and I've come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians. And so God tells Moses, come, I will send you to Pharaoh that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. And Moses, even though there's like this burning bush and God's literally talking to him, he's like, nah, right? He's not into that. So he says, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? But God said, I will be with you, and this shall be a sign for you, that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain. So the mountain that he was on. So then Moses says, okay, right, like, I'll do it because you said you're with me. But if I go to the people of Israel and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what's his name? What shall I tell them, right? And so if you understand that God is meaning spiritual being, then that's a legitimate question, right? Because he's saying, well, which spiritual being is sending me over to them? And so God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. And so what's going on is God is telling him, my name is I am. So first, right, what does that mean? So to get like a little bit philosophical, I am who I am is saying, like, you can't tell me who I am, basically, right? I am who I am. But it also means I'm always going to exist. I am who I am. Like, you don't cause me to exist. I cause me to exist. And so that's what God is telling him. That's how he's revealing himself to Moses. That's the name that he gives. That's the name that the Israelites understand to be God. So when we say God, we think God. God is God. But to the Israelites, you would say Yahweh is God. And actually, you wouldn't even say it because they were so like, they didn't want to speak the name of God. So then they would just spell it out without using the vowels because that made it better for some reason to like not be sacrilegious, I guess. Anyway, so they would spell out Yahweh so that they wouldn't even say it. And so that was how revered the name was. And so if we understand that idea, okay, right, who's Jesus talking to when he's talking on earth? He's talking to other Israelites. So he's not going to say, I am God. He's going to say, I am Yahweh. So now that we have all that cleared out, does Jesus ever say, I am Yahweh? And the answer is yes, right? I wouldn't build this all up unless we were actually going to get to that point. So now we're in John chapter 8. We're going to be in verse 12. And so what's going on, the context is there's been this festival that's been going on. Right now there's a festival that is about lights. And so Jesus spoke to them saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. And if you read through the book of John, you'll see Jesus over and over mention, I am this, I am that. And so he's already been making these claims about being Yahweh. But later in this chapter, he makes a direct claim and they try to kill him over it. And so you will see that everybody understood that Jesus was calling himself God. So we're going to be skipping through. There's some really good stuff. Basically, they're yelling at him and Jesus is getting really sassy back at them. And so that was kind of where I'm getting at, where you needed to know your context. So you could be sassy if it's like a Pharisee, which is a religious leader, and a religious leader is giving you a lot of flack. Then you can be a little bit more sassy, as Jesus' example. But even then, he's not trying to be in their face. He's still speaking truth, and he's still guiding people. So you'll be also, if you continue reading, you'll see that people believe in him as he does it. So he's not just being a jerk. He is trying to share the truth, even when it is something that other people don't want to hear. And so one of the things that he's telling them is about how Abraham, they're not actually the children of Abraham. So they're not believing in him, and so they're not actually Abraham's children. He's saying that they're children of the devil. He's getting in their face. So then the Jews answered him. So this is all the way in verse 48, so we skipped a lot. The Jews answered him, "Are we not right in saying that you are a Samaritan and have a demon?" So fun fact, the Jews at the time were super racist. They hated the Samaritans. So racism is a big problem. It's not just something that's been going on today. It's been throughout history. So Jesus answered, "I do not have a demon, but I honor my Father, and you dishonor me. Yet I do not seek my own glory. There is one who seeks it, and he is the judge. Truly, truly, I say to you, if anyone keeps my word, he will never see death." The Jews said to him, "Now we know that you have a demon. Abraham died, as did the prophets. Yet you say, if anyone keeps my word, he will never taste death. Are you greater than our father Abraham, who died? And the prophets died. Who do you make yourself out to be?" Right? And so this is really the question. Who do you make yourself out to be? Jesus is going to answer with, "I am God." So you'll see it right here. So Jesus answered, "If I glorify myself, my glory is nothing. It is my Father who glorifies me, of whom you say, he is our God. But you have not known him. I know him. If you were to say that I do not know him, I would be a liar like you. But I do know him, and I keep his word." Right? So he's calling them liars, and he's being really sassy about it. Verse 56, "Your father Abraham rejoiced that he would see my day. He saw it and was glad." So the Jews said to him, "You are not yet 50 years old, and you have seen Abraham?" Jesus said to them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am." He said, "I am who I am." He's the God that was, that is, and is to come. He's going to always exist no matter what you say. So again, in verse 58, Jesus said to him, "Truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am." And so what did the Jews do? So they picked up stones to throw at him, but Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple. And so the reason why this is such like a clear thing is really only if you understand the context of the Bible. So if you understand that it's a Jewish book, that Jesus was a Jew and he was talking to other Jews, just by what their action was, which was to pick up stones to throw at him, which was another Jewish thing. So it was, you know how there's lynching in America? It was basically like that. It was supposed to be done after a court sentencing, so it wasn't supposed to be lynching, but it was part of the community. The community as a whole would kill somebody that is blaspheming, that is claiming to be God. And so by picking up rocks, they're saying, "You, Jesus, you are blaspheming because you are claiming to be God." And so a lot of people that are saying Jesus never claimed to be God, they might be ignorant. They might not know that Jesus did claim to be God. He claimed it even more strongly than saying God. He said, "I am Yahweh." And so hopefully this will help understand, not help you understand. Well, yeah, anyway. Hopefully this will help you understand, and hopefully this will help you be able to talk to other people more gently. So if we're going back to our verse in 1 Peter 3:15, we're supposed to be working together as Christians, and we're supposed to be talking to others who don't understand Jesus with gentleness and respect. The goal is for us to love others. You're supposed to continue being a Christian even if others are not being nice to you. After verse 15, he goes on to explain about how Jesus suffered. And so just as Jesus was a perfect person, and he suffered and he died, so are we supposed to continue to try to be perfect people. And although we're not Jesus, so we're not going to be perfect, we're supposed to rely on the Holy Spirit and continue to try to do good despite our faults. And we're not supposed to give in to the world around us, which might be hateful. And you know, it's a crazy year right now. If you're ever on Facebook, you'll see all the hateful comments, people, or Instagram, or wherever you guys are, right? So I know, like, I'm a boomer, I'm using Facebook, blah, blah, blah. But wherever you are, you'll see hateful comments you'll see people that are still arguing about racism, and sometimes they're dealing with a serious issue. Racism is a serious issue that needs to be dealt with. But even as Jesus taught, it should be done with love and respect. So I hope this was helpful to you guys. I hope that you guys have an awesome week and that you guys do awesome discussions together. I love you guys. I hope that you know that we as a church, we care for you, and that we're seeking for you to love Jesus and grow in that relationship. He is the one that's going to change the world. It's not going to be some movement that we do unless the movement that we do is tied together with Christ. Love you guys. Laters. God also said, cut that out. Boom. Right? So I am has sent, sorry. Boom. So I am, cut.